We're talking college sports in the Deep South where college football is king and the battle cry is War Eagle. The Southeastern Conference is arguably one of the most competitive conferences in all of college football. Of course, the SEC West, we believe, is one of the more competitive sub-conferences, very physical play and very fierce, intense, hated rivalries. Once again, it's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speaks Sports YouTube. We are here once again talking about Auburn football like nobody else is going to. War Eagle. Now, there's no mistake that on last season, the offense took a step back. Typically, with a Gus Malzahn run offense, what you tend to find are points scored, at least. Also, what you tend to find is time of possession. That's something that's very predicated on the run-heavy type offense. And then you find a little tempo. One thing about Gus Malzahn's offense, it just doesn't appear to work without tempo. Now, the Auburn offense in 2018 took some major steps back, which were not typical of what we're accustomed to of a Gus Malzahn run offense. Gus Malzahn decided back in 2015 to relinquish his duties of play calling, and the outcome did not turn out so well for Gus Malzahn. So when I look at the 2018 offense, just very uncharacteristic of what we would like to see from Gus Malzahn. 30.9 points per game, did not have a 1,000-yard rusher. Very inconsistent with moving the chains on last season, and that proved to be a huge liability to an otherwise sound defense for the Auburn Tigers, who only allowed 19.2 points per game, but were placed in a lot of adverse positions as the offense could not maintain possession for long periods of time. So we would like to think going into 2019 that these matters will be corrected, because Gus Malzahn is now calling plays again. And we all know during Gus Malzahn's tenure as a play caller, it can get very ugly for the opposing defenses. You're talking about in 2009, even without a dual threat quarterback in Chris Todd. As a matter of fact, Chris Todd had minus 114 yards during his tenure as a quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. But even still, with not having a viable dual threat quarterback, Auburn averaged about 33 points per game. The defense still surrendering 27.5 points per game. Auburn wound up 8-5, gave Alabama a run for their money on that particular season. But it just goes to show that Gus Malzahn, if he would have had control over the offense this year, I think could have utilized Jarrett Stidham in a more effective way, similar to what the fan base saw against Purdue in the Music City Bowl. I think Jarrett Stidham had a lot of qualities that could fit in the variations of Gus Malzahn's run offense, but, you know, we're going to get to in a second some of the downsides of last season, and we're going to move on in that regard. So when we look at this, Gus Malzahn has a knack for moving the football, okay? In 2010, as I mentioned before, a staggering 41.2 points per game in the BCS National Championship year for the Auburn Tigers. During this time, Gus Malzahn was offensive coordinator, did an excellent job of utilizing the talents of Cam Newton and accentuating all the talents of the guys that surrounded Cam Newton. An excellent output for the Auburn Tigers in 2010. Now, fast forward to 2013, really not too sure where, Nick Marshall's skill set, was tracking towards. However, in my honest opinion, in 2013, we really started to see how deadly this offense could be when Auburn took the trip down to College Station and upset Texas A&M. That particular game, Nick Marshall showed himself as a viable dual threat quarterback and how deadly this offense can be down the stretch, and rightfully so. it turned out to be as such. Auburn averaged 39.5 points per game on their way to a BCS national championship, and subsequently a 34-31 loss to Florida State. Now, all of this time we're thinking, okay, as Gus Malzahn as a play caller, if only he could be accompanied by a decent defense, then this could be a national championship team. There's no Auburn fan out there that can with a straight face say that they weren't thinking on those terms. If Gus Malzahn, he's rolling up the points, and if the defense could just be sound, only maybe giving up about 20 points per game, then Auburn could be headed towards a national championship. So we fast forward this thing to 2014, and Gus Malzahn is still calling plays, still scoring, somewhat at a high level, but giving up 26.7 points per game, including surrendering a potential win over Alabama, scoring 44 unlikely points against Alabama, but also giving up 55 points. So we see Gus Malzahn can move the football, but just never had a defense to accompany his efforts. So 2015, Gus Malzahn decides to stop calling plays. He wanted to play the CEO role, which we've talked about before. Now the offense steps backwards, but the defense steps up. Because we're talking in 2015, for example, this wasn't particularly the year, but with Kevin Steele coming aboard, we're talking about a different type of defense. In 2016, Auburn only gave up 17.1 points per game, but the offense took a step back. Just imagine how much different these teams would have turned out. That's the difference between an 8-5 year and a 10-3 year. Auburn played defense, but the offense didn't step up. So just imagine if you could combine the 2010 year, 41.2 points per game, and the defense only giving up 17.1 points per game, you got a totally different outcome when you think about the averages. You're talking about going from 8-5 to potentially 10-2. That's 3 games probably that you win because of better defense. Fast forward to 2017, Auburn had a decent output offensively, 33.9 points per game. The defense still playing. So what I'm getting at is this. We're hoping that, Gus Malzahn can get this offense back going because you're going to have a good defense in place. And we believe that Kenny Dillingham is the guy that's going to really help Gus Malzahn out in making this thing happen. Kenny Dillingham had some great numbers in Memphis. Kind of numbers kind of similar to what Gus Malzahn has been able to output. But one thing I'm really impressed with Kenny Dillingham is he brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of intelligence to the table. And you can tell that he's really, really engaged as to what the offense is going to look like. Now, a lot of folks early in the, when he first came on board as an Auburn Tiger offensive coordinator, this is going to be Gus Malzahn's puppet. In my opinion, you just don't pay $500,000 a year for someone to puppet the sideline. I think Auburn is in a great position with the tools in place. Have a very interesting quarterback battle. Probably best case scenario, any of those quarterbacks could be effective in whatever variation of offense these two guys decide to run. I think they will make a very good combination for the Auburn Tigers. Got a great set of running backs returning and receivers. The biggest question mark, in my opinion, is the offensive line. How much progression will the offensive line have made between 2018 and 2019? We did see some progress from the offensive line as you move down into those Georgia and Alabama games. Not just stellar games, but they started to do a better job of controlling somewhat the line of scrimmage. Was able to move the football to some degree of effectiveness against those teams. Gave you some hope. And, of course, the onslaught against Purdue. So we're just thinking that Kenny Dillingham and Gus Malzahn, with all the weapons involved, will be able to get this offense going and be able to team this thing up with a great defense out of Kevin Steele. Once again, it's K2 to go for Vernon Speaks Sports. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. as we talk about Auburn football in an unreasonable manner. I appreciate you all welcoming me on your radios on your way to work, into your living rooms, and as you walk around the track trying to keep up with Auburn football. Please subscribe to my channel, Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, War Eagle.